Welcome to the last video in this series. If you've made it this far, well done, and thank you for joining me on this journey. I want to end this series by talking about harmony and countermelody. To understand harmony, we must first understand intervals and chord construction. I have made videos on both of those topics. If you haven't seen them yet, I'd recommend watching them. Alright, if you think about it, two people singing with one singing a harmony is really just an interval. That interval can be a third, can be a fifth, or an inverted third. We can actually reuse a lesson we've learned in a previous video, scale degrees. As long as we remember which chords in our scale are major and which are minor, we can work out the harmony. Let's imagine two singers. One of our singers, let's call her Sophie, is singing the melody, that is to say the actual tune of the song. Our second singer, who we'll call Tim, is singing the harmony. Now, being that this is a harmony, Tim will be following the melody as closely as he can, except of course he'll always be a third above Sophie. Our two singers are performing in the key of C major. So when Sophie sings a C, Tim would sing an E. When Sophie moves to D, Tim moves to an F. And when Sophie sings E, Tim sings G. You get the point. All Tim has to do is stay a third above Sophie. But just don't forget your scale degrees, because sometimes it's a third and sometimes it's a minor third. It's worth noting here that while Tim is technically singing lower than Sophie, it's still considered a harmony because although he's dropped an octave, he's still a third above root. Well, with that being said, let's add another singer. Now Sophie is still singing the melody, and Tim is singing in thirds. Well, let's introduce Catherine, who is going to be singing in fifths. So when Sophie sings C, Tim sings E, and Catherine sings G. When Sophie sings E, Tim will sing a G and Catherine will sing a B. The point is our three singers are really just making chords now. Now if you wanted to add more singers, there's a couple of directions you could go. You could spread out. So you could have two singers singing the same melody or harmony an octave apart. You could have somebody singing chords instead of a melody. So somebody could sing C for the duration of the first bar, and then G for the duration of the second bar, and so on and so forth. If you want to get more colorful or spicy, you can have somebody singing a seventh every now and again as part of a chord. Or you could introduce countermelody. Countermelody is different to harmony in that countermelody has its own distinct melodic line. There are different ways of creating countermelody. For example, rhythm. Our example here uses quarter notes in the first bar, but we could, if we wanted to, write a countermelody using sixteenths or half notes or a combination of different note lengths. Rhythm is a very effective way to add flavor to your music. Another example has to do with chord voicing. So instead of sticking to thirds and fifths, we could alternate. For example, let's make the first two notes fifths and the second two notes thirds. One more example of countermelody is alternating directions. Now this one can be a little more complicated to work out. Most often, we're only going to do this over a single bar. Sometimes I'll be composing something and I'll realize that if I mirror what I just wrote, it should actually dovetail nicely with the original melody. For the music theorists out there, yes, I am talking about a type of canon. The most effective countermelodies make use of all of the examples above and more. I really hope that this video and the rest of the videos in this series have been useful to you. Thank you so much for watching.